Welcome to Casa Fuzetta, the House of Stories, with me, Tara.
And me, Kate.
In the first few episodes, we explore how I found myself taking on the renovation of 3 derelict buildings in a country I'd never been to, knew no one, and didn't speak the language, and had zero experience of restoration projects, but somehow created a yoga retreat listed by Condé Nast Traveller and Travel and Leisure as one of the best retreat venues in the world.
Up until now, we've been staying within the boundaries of Olhão. How's my pronunciation?
Very good.
I've been working on
it.
We've met Kat, the wonderful founder of Cheeky Yoga Club, who's hosted multiple retreats at Casa Fuzetta. And we've been on a walk in the amazing markets of Olhão, meeting chatty neighbours along the way.
In this episode, we venture a little further afield to go and visit Emma Campos, also from the UK, and who also found herself with her husband in Portugal, embarking on a most unexpected journey. I hope you'll find inspiration in their story. They believed, like us, that there must be more to life than just being busy in London and wanted to discover what more the world had to offer. Timing meant that their initial adventures were kiboshed by COVID, but they pivoted to join Emma's parents in Portugal, and this led them to exploring the country and to create a beautiful garden-to-table restaurant a short drive away.
I loved that you guys touched on the challenges of over-tourism and your preference for quiet luxury over big-ticket bling.
Oh, every time.
Every time. And you were kind enough to share many of the boutique properties and foodie gems that both you and Emma have fallen in love with across the country.
We're always torn whether to share the places we find or to keep quiet. But in the show notes, we've included links for you to be able to find more details about Austa and the other places and projects we touch on in the episode. But for now, we invite you to join us in the back of the taxi as I take Kate to visit Emma and Austa for the first.
We're rolling in more ways than one. We're in the car.
We are in the car. We have left Olhão to go to a restaurant, a new restaurant called Austa, which is in a town called Armanço, which is just on the outskirts of what locally we call the Golden Triangle of Quinta del Lago and Val de Lobo. And it's not my usual area because it's very much the location that actually a lot of our British listeners will know, because it's very popular with the English, lots of golf and lots of tennis resorts, bit of a gated community, and even though it's just half an hour away from Olhão by car, it's a completely different world. You will see it's very polished, it's very manicured. Anyway, the reason I wanted to take you is because I made friends, as I have done on more than one occasion, with various Instagrammers, and Emma and her husband David have set up this really beautiful restaurant that Todd and I went to in the summer for the first time, and it's quite high concept but beautifully executed, and I just thought, Kate, you would love it. And
I'm excited.
I also thought that it would be good to invite them to come and talk to us on the podcast, because I think their story is interesting. And actually what will be really interesting for me is because I actually don't know these guys very well, but it's one of those sort of immediate, oh yes, we like each other and kind of things, but I don't know much about huge amount about their backstory.
Okay, cool. Have you met them face to face before, or only?
I have. It took a very long time for us to meet face to face. So we've
Busy
been
people.
Again, around here, it's always a question of ships passing in the night and whether or not the stars align for everybody to be in the same place at the same time. But yeah, so we'd been following each other and who's doing what on Instagram, or we'd suddenly found that we'd been to the same places around the country, but like a week apart. And then we met. I think we were, in the end, we both ended up invited by my lovely friend Philippe, who owns the Morgado do Quintão vineyard a little bit further west again in the Algarve, and that's such an amazing and beautiful property in and of itself that, again, a whole subject for
Whole
another
other
pod. And because they have, in the one thing to share now is that in the midst of their vineyard sort of farmstead property is this 2,000-year-old olive tree.
Oh my gosh.
And it's huge and it's beautiful, and they host these farmers' tables for lunches and dinners under the branches of
Wonderful.
the olive tree.
Oh, I'm excited.
And every now and again, each of us in turn actually hosts these dinners for other business owners, influencers, friends, people we like, people we don't know, but we've come across and we think we're going to like. And so we...
bring that community together?
Yeah.
Really great.
So that's actually, in the end, where Emma and I met, because of course we had neither of us are really very... the social media gurus would tell us that we're doing completely the wrong thing because neither of us like being front of camera, but we do like being behind the camera, and we do obviously love talking to people.
Yes.
And
making those connections, which is huge.
absolutely,
I think. Big part of the journey.
Yeah, so that's where we
Super.
first met, and then a couple of summers ago now, again, I hosted a big dinner at Casa Fuzetta for lots of people, and Emma and David joined us, and that's where they started to tell me about all the extraordinary things that they were about to embark on, and it was like, whoa, this is ambitious. So they were like, yeah, we've bought a farm, they're renovating a farmhouse, which I haven't seen any of that, but they were very much looking to grow their own produce for a farm-to-table concept for the restaurant.
Oh, great.
And then, of course, the restaurant, which is where we're going today.
Very exciting. I'm looking forward to meeting them.
It will be interesting to see what you make of it.
Fantastic.
What you make of it. It's not the nicest of days, but we're still sitting here in our shirt sleeves
Yes.
rather than wrapped up in 52 layers, which is what we had in London a couple of days ago. It is a definite improvement.
Definitely. Great.
Cool. We'll leave it there.
Leave it there. Yeah, so I'm just going to hold my fuzzy. So we're on and rolling, and I have to say we've just rolled in. Amazing. It's what my friend calls a gravel squirt. My friend Claire in Ireland. It's a fantastic sort of pea gravel coming into this.
It's a gravel squirt.
When you go out and you do a little walk or a little run round on the gravel, and you do it because they have a similar sort of pea gravel in their garden. Anyway, long story short. Okay, coming in, amazing. You enter through this hedge, essentially, into this oasis, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, and look at the size of the... are they oranges or are they
Maybe
grape?
grapefruit or
No, I think
palmetto
they
or...
are.
What are
I
they
don't
called?
know.
Pomelato or
Oh,
something like that?
pomelo? Is that the
Pomelo,
thing?
that's it.
Pomelo.
Oh, Kate. Yes. And it's just gorgeous.
But also, because, come on, you have to...
There's a garden. Ooh. Lovely.
And in the summer, they've cut all the grasses, but in the summer, all these grasses were overflowing.
Oh my gosh.
And what really struck me in the summer was, you have to remember, this has only just opened.
Oh wow. When? Within the last year?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the summer. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Literally, June.
I'm on it now, so I'm a little overwhelmed by the
maybe
beauty
even
of this
July.
garden. Honestly, it's like a parterre with cabbage, Brussels sprouts, beets,
What can you
carrots.
see?
It's just
Look at
overflowing.
the aubergine.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh,
so
surrounded by
all the
fruit
plant-
trees,
It's just beautiful. Leeks.
lettuce.
Oh, what's this over here? Oh, chard. Colourful chard.
Oh, fantastic. This is beautiful, and it looks like some stuff has just been harvested, other stuff's ready to be transported to a table.
Oh, and I've just got a whiff of the basil. Look at
Beautiful.
this. Beautiful. Oh,
And it's so lovely because it's rained a little bit, which is unusual, and it's the droplets of rain are still caught on the leaves of the vegetables. It's gorgeous.
butterflies flying around.
Or a flutterby, as we call them. A butterfly flutters by.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And the breeze is just stunning. And then it's just a burst of yellow from these gorgeous little flowers. I don't know what those are called, but they're beautiful.
Actually, I have to say, I think they're possibly weeds.
Oh, really? They're beautiful weeds. I'll take them. I love a weed.
We better go and meet our hosts.
This
Yes,
is
it's great.
fantastic.
I know, it's
I want to really
gorgeous.
explore this garden. We'll have to come out and have another little wander afterwards.
We're back with the lovely Emma, the creator of Austa and creator of Design Escapes Portugal, and
So many
you know,
wonderful things.
stylist and
Things, yes.
photographer extraordinaire and lover of all
Clearly, I'm a bit confused about life with all these businesses.
good things. And why we're here. It's because somehow or other, I think I stumbled upon your
Well, I stumbled
design.
upon you, I think,
Oh,
probably
okay, then-
first.
Well, we stumbled upon each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's the magic of Instagram, isn't it? And I feel like when we first moved here, especially at the beginning, because it was March 2020, so the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh, is that when you?
that's when we
moved
moved here, yeah, full time.
Didn't realise.
Yeah, so my family have been here for about 20 years.
Right.
And they've started and grew this business with the homewares and the furniture and things like that. And so I used to just come out for holidays and school. And then about September 2019, David and I left London to go travelling and have a little midlife crisis and see if we could find somewhere else to live.
Hit midlife.
Quarter life?
Not even
Quarter life
Quarter life.
crisis. I think we just felt like we'd done London and we were living from weekend to weekend and meeting up with friends, and always the conversation was, oh, how are you? And it was always like, oh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
And we were like, there must be more to life than busyness. So let's, strip away everything, put on 2 little backpacks and go traveling and see what we can find. Maybe we can find somewhere else to live and have a different life within a life. Yeah. So we set off and we started in America, as I said, and then we went down through Central and South America. Got about 6 months out of the traveling when we were in the middle of essentially what was the Atacama Desert in Chile. And we'd been off grid for about 15 days and came back into reality, into a little town. And all of these places and hotels were closing because of something called COVID. Yes. And we had no idea what that meant. So went to the airport to see if we get a flight somewhere else. And the airports were shutting down. So we had to make a decision at sort of 4 o'clock in the morning whether or not we would go to Australia and wait out a few weeks there before continuing the travels into Asia, or whether we came back to Lisbon, which was the other cheaper flight that we could find, and be with my parents for a few weeks and then go off around the other way around the world, maybe India or wherever.
I had no idea.
So it was like a snap decision in the middle of the night that brought us to Portugal. And when we first got here, we were planning the next part of our trip. Like, we spent 3 months researching Central Asia and India and places like that. And then we slowly came to the realization that this thing wasn't going to go away. And I think because we both still had the travel bug in us, we decided instead to travel within the country that we'd ended up in. And that was obviously Portugal. So we spent almost a year traveling around the whole country and meeting different people and places.
So it was just to sort of satisfy the travel.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. You were going around Portugal.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I couldn't
work out what gave us all this time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't quite work out what
why.
we were doing or why.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was more because we'd made this commitment and we'd spent 2 years in London saving up to travel the world. So we thought, we have this time and we have these savings, so let's use them to travel around the country that we've ended up in and see if we can get to know more about its culture and communities and things like that. Obviously, which travel gives you the gift to do. Yeah. And through the travels, I think, because it was obviously at a time when tourism in Portugal, which is like its key industry, totally collapsed. Wow. And I'm sure that was absolute hell for Casa
Fuzetta. Subject for a whole nother
I know, so it's trauma.
I'm just like going, it's behind us now.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, totally. But I think it gave us, on a positive note, it gave us time to spend with people like you and other people who had guest houses or wineries or projects around the country that weren't receiving hundreds of tourists. And we were able selfishly to spend time with them and to really get to know them a bit better and to understand more about what their motivation was for being in Portugal. And it was a gift that we didn't really realize it was giving us at the time. And because our passions between us are sort of design, art, craft, ceramics, things like that. On my side,
Photography, you've got a
yes.
really good
Yeah.
eye.
And for David, it's food and wine, basically. So we thought the way to bring all that together would be into creating a space and a restaurant space where the food and wine elements can come and create a conversation around all those different projects that we'd discovered and for
and
ourselves.
friendships
Yeah.
made across the country.
Yeah, and I think where Instagram came into it was traditionally coming to Portugal, I'd always come to the Algarve and a specific part of the Algarve, and beyond that, I didn't really know anything else about the country
But
or
I
the
don't
region.
think any of us did.
No,
And
exactly.
I don't know who's ever been responsible in the past for marketing Portugal, but
Yes.
my God, they've done a
I know.
hectic bad job.
I know.
But the beauty of it has been that it's actually left the country untainted in some ways.
Yes, exactly. And
you're
those
able
little
to
gems are still there and still authentic and still,
amazing.
glowing.
And now it's a sort of, ooh, we mustn't tell.
So I know that's the balance, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think obviously with Austa and with Design Escapes, I'm trying to promote another side of Portugal, but then you don't want to promote it so much that then also becomes tainted, as you say, and becomes over touristed and things like that. So, and I think that's obviously like a global thing.
Yes.
Obviously you want Portugal to be on the map for the right reasons, but you also don't want those things destroyed by too many visitors. Like it's obviously a much bigger conversation, but
how do you make something accessible without making it overrun,
without
destroying
it?
Exactly.
Yes.
I think it's a challenge everywhere, and also the need to be organized as a tourist in a way that you weren't before, because otherwise you don't, you can't just pop up, see something, go home. You've got to be.
But I think as well, I think in Portugal there's a long time to go until it would get like that. In the Algarve it's a bit different because it is a tourist destination, but particularly like the inland Alentejo, like it's hard to imagine that becoming totally overrun with tourists because the towns and villages are so small, it wouldn't really allow for that, and they're so spaced out and things like that.
Yes, and in the summer it's pretty extreme.
Yes, like 40 plus degrees, so it's not the best time to be like wandering around a winery drinking lukewarm wine. There's parts of Portugal that we went to that I just had no idea existed and are almost like the fabric of the country, unlike some of the tiny places, a little bit like Sintra. Obviously Sintra is amazing and beautiful and has so much history, which is important. And
yes, because none of us ever
were
taught
exactly
about it. Actually yesterday, I don't know if you know our friend Paul Azevedo, he was telling us, because he's half Portuguese, half English.
Okay. Yes.
And he's now here all the time and
tapping
into the history. Yeah, because as a Brit, actually both as a Brit but as somebody who went to a French school.
Yes. Yeah. That Portuguese history is not on the curriculum at all. No.
But it's an extraordinarily rich history, and as you travel across the country, it hits you at
it opens itself up.
Opens itself up, and you see it there, and that's still.
I mean, there's still like places that you can go to and visit Roman ruins that you can literally just walk into as a visitor. There's no ticket office or anything, and you're just there amongst these incredible relics of history on the Iberian Peninsula or whatever it was before back then. And it seems like there's so many places like that are almost not forgotten, but they're just there and there's no one really doing anything with them. And I think as well, when we were traveling around initially in Portugal, we were looking for somewhere to settle that wasn't necessarily the Algarve. And through visiting houses that we were potentially looking to purchase, you also discover things about Portugal's history and the families and perhaps why they're selling things. We went to one house near to Elvish in northern Asia, and they had Roman ruins there on the grounds of the house with the underfloor heating systems and mosaics that had just been covered with gravel. And the daughter was showing, she was selling the house because her father had passed away and her sister it's in the middle of nowhere, and they were in Lisbon and had their own lives. And we were talking about the Roman ruins, and I said, has no one come to protect them or whatever? And she said, we had the Archaeologist Society here, and then the funding was cut, so they left. And it's just these amazing little snippets of history. private
Estates, yeah.
properties. Yeah. And in the house, she had a book that had like diary entries in it from the Duke of Wellington's right-hand man from the war with Spain, because
Wow.
they'd used the house as like a base.
Officers' quarters or whatever.
It was nuts. Yeah, it really
Amazing.
was.
Did it make you just want to buy up loads of different houses as you went?
Yes.
I
Oh
don't
my
want anything to
gosh.
happen.
I know. It was so tempting, and we got so close with the couple, but we just felt as people in our mid-30s living in the middle of nowhere in the Alentejo would be a little
hard.
isolating. And there were people nearby, like there's a nice young community in Stromoj with some amazing restaurants and things like that. But we just thought, especially because we wanted to create a small hotel or some sort of hospitality business, you really then have to create like a destination for people to come to, rather than people just popping by. And as we said before, those areas in Portugal are still very much up and coming in terms of tourism. You're not getting hordes of people. So from a business point of view as well, we were we thought maybe in the future, I don't know, but there's some beautiful properties and amazing vast land and countryside.
Have you been to Da Licença?
Yes.
I haven't got there yet.
It's so great. Yeah.
They're using the pink, aren't they using the pink
marble?
From
Yes.
Estremoz?
So Portugal, I think it's the second biggest producer of marble in the world after Italy and China, maybe. Don't quote me on that.
We'll check it in the show notes.
Yes, exactly. But so these two guys, French and Portuguese couple, one of whom was the ex-head of silks at Hermes in Paris, and the other he's a gallerist. He has galleries in Paris that focus on 20th century furniture from, I think, Finland.
Okay,
very niche.
Very niche.
Yes,
Yeah.
but beautiful. And they've created this amazing country house that's quite architectural in style and quite minimalist, but is filled with all of their amazing collections of furniture and art and ceramics. And it's like their home. I think there's about 7 or 8 bedrooms, but they have a gallery there, and it's just divine.
I've seen pictures of these sort of sliced thin walls of pink marble.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And the pool
And
is
they
a
have
circle.
a
Yes.
circular pool.
Very like James Turrell vibes.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. For me, it's probably the most art-led hotel in Portugal, just because of that collection and being like having a gin and tonic set on this furniture that was designed by
not the Le
Finnish.
Boutin place in Melidus.
No, because we might get onto that.
We're not going to talk
No,
about that. No, that's like, because that one gets all the
it gets the
coverage.
hoo-ha, yes, but I think it's the quiet luxury that I think is more interesting, and I think that Portugal like nails in a way, especially with Casa Fuzetta. You guys have done it so beautifully in respecting local architecture and your local communities and bringing in interesting objects and basically creating a home that people can come and stay in and learn a bit more about their destination in a way, just from a few days, rather than coming to something that has Egyptian stone. And anyway, but yeah, as I said, I think Portugal is really, there were a few places that I think pioneered it, Casa Fuzetta being one. And I think there's another group called Silent Living that really has been like, they've been copied a lot.
I've been a bit like you. I stalked them on Instagram for ages, but I think you've met as well Luisa, who's the founder of La Eva, the skincare brand that I'm involved with. But I think through Filipe Morgado do Quintão, which is obviously, I think, where we actually first met in person at last. I think Philippe knows those guys very well. And they've got but real and high architectural concepts. Aren't they? Are they the guys who have the cabanas in Comporta where the floor is actually the sand?
Yes, exactly. They have the Comporta one where the floor, in the living room is sand, and it's heated underfloor.
Is it?
Yeah, you're sitting there reading a book or having dinner and tucking your feet underneath the sand, and it's all warm.
Hang on, you get a
It's so
pedicure at the
nice.
same time.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
because
that's next
it's
level.
Weird because when we first, I think I mentioned, we were going to Sintra back in sort of 2014, 2015. We were staying up near Guincho Beach and near Cascais. But I had been, at the time, I'd been looking for places, and I think that silent living cabana with the sand floor had just been finished and was just being put on the market for summer rent. And I'd looked at it, and I'm like, part of me was like going, ooh, that looks really cool. But I missed the whole heated sand, because I was like going,
is it
practical? Very practical.
Yes, I know.
We were having a gaggle of teenagers, so I went for a sensible option. But I've always regretted it, really. And now I really regretted it.
It's so simple, but it's just so magical. And I think their raison d'etre, for want of a better term, is essentially like what happens when you take everything away is that you're able to connect with your surroundings more. Most of their properties, the walls are plain white or some sort of beautiful eggshell colour. There's really not a lot of furniture or art or little objects, but it's just simplicity and, as the name implies, silence, because you're not distracted by all of these things and stuff and around you. So it makes you just ease into your surroundings more. And I think João, who's the founder of Silent Living, really nailed that and has pioneered that in Portugal. And I think a lot of people, probably not just in Portugal, but around the world, have tried to emulate his brand or the way that he's structured his places. But no, they're so beautiful. The one in Lisbon is also amazing. And
I've only again stalked it, and
it's gorgeous.
Salivated over the pictures.
It's up in Alfama in Santa Clara, which is, for a first-time visitor in Lisbon, it's a little bit set back, but it's worth it after a day of exploring the city, just retreating up there and watching the sunset over the river from the beautiful stone bath.
Oh,
so nice.
And the Alfama is always my all-time favourite part
it's beautiful.
Of Lisbon. That's also it's the only bit of Lisbon that didn't get destroyed during the 1755 earthquake and then tsunami that raged through the town. So most of Lisbon is 1756 and
beyond.
But the Alfama, which was actually the poor quarter of the time, that didn't get touched.
Wow.
And so that's why.
No, it's very like higgledy-piggledy and
on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. No, it really is. Yeah.
And hilly.
And so hilly. I know.
You have to be
I made the mistake the first time we went to Lisbon of wearing it with heels, and literally all these like beautiful Lisbon girlies was watching me, being like, she's definitely an étranger, you know? Like teetering, you always get buns of steel after a visit to Lisbon, for sure. You turn a corner and you look up and you're like, there must be another way.
I always it's always one of my big notes, recommendations for people who come to stay with us.
No heels.
Leave the heels.
Just shoes. Flip-flops and trainers or whatever. Yeah, that's all you need.
A little top tip as well, deck shoes if it rains. It's a good thing. I was thinking yesterday, some sort of
you need something with grip.
Yes. Because of the calçada. Oh my god.
But the calçadas in Lisbon, then you get
those are the tiles.
The little stones and the way they construct the pavements
until it rains, and then they're like gloss.
Yes.
Woohoo! And then you double that with
steep
the angle.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So you're.
I know, but you see all these little ladies doddering around with their shopping trolleys and things, and you're like, how have they not broken their necks 10 times over? Yeah, literally, just legs like horses. Crazy.
I have a question. You had this amazing experience traveling around for how long? For a year?
It was pretty much a year, and it continued. Obviously, we concepted the idea for this restaurant project probably a year in.
Okay.
But then that meant the travel still continued as we were working on that at the same time to gather inspiration and contacts and things like that. But I feel like travel is just now deeply ingrained in me as a thing. I know it's like a severe luxury, but it is just my favorite thing to do in the whole world. There's nothing better for me. And I think even though Design Escapes started from my want to document and show people like me who perhaps thought that Portugal was just sun, sea and sand, that
That's
there
why
was
I'd
more
never
to
been
it.
to Portugal until the September of 2013.
Really?
Because I just dismissed it
Yes,
as
yeah.
corner of
The Algarve,
another,
you
the
know.
Algarve. And
Yes.
I'm just like, I'm
Not
so
for me.
not interested.
Like, where's the
Yeah.
culture? But there's so much of it here.
Yes.
And
But now we're torn between whether to tell it.
I know, exactly. I know. Sometimes actually if I in the early days when I was posting things, like a couple of people would reply and say, oh, don't tag the name or don't tag the location, it needs to stay a secret.
We're
Yes.
back with the lovely Emma of Austa, the creator of Austa and creator of Design Escapes Portugal. And
So many
you know,
wonderful things.
stylist and
Things, yes.
photographer extraordinaire and lover of all
Clearly I'm a bit confused about life with all these businesses.
good things.
Exactly.
Actually, picking up that's one of the things we talked about before. The Venn diagram with people down here crosses the sort of the rebellious streak and the
Yes.
creative streak and wanting to go. Life is
Yes.
hopefully long, but
Yes.
should be full and
varied. Yes.
and rich of different experiences. So
Yeah.
instead of just living for each weekend, which always felt snatched, or
Yes.
certainly that was one of the things that motivated us in creating Casa Fuzetta. It was just like, look, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
It takes 9 months, if you're lucky, to get the diaries to match up.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
There's no spontaneity.
Yes.
Anyway,
which is just very quite unfulfilling in a way, and you always
deeply.
feel like you're trying to pull teeth with finding moments of
so it's like, no,
way
I
and
think
connection.
there must be a different way.
Absolutely.
And I think that's again where we've all bonded.
Yes.
There must be a different way, and it's up to us
to seek it
and to show it can be done.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
actually people ask podcast about to go, it can be done.
Yes.
Look, here are all these people who are doing it and actually creating these extraordinary lives and opportunities and experiences for people, to both for yourselves but also people who are coming into your life, whether it's as guests or as staff members or suppliers or people, to actually help them build livelihoods and businesses as well. And
I think that's where we're trying to come at it in a way from Austa, is that we, during our travels around Portugal, we have come across all of these amazing people who are doing amazing things. And I think coming from London, we had the perspective of what the Algarve is sometimes boxed into from an international point of view in terms of a destination. And we wanted to turn that on its head and be a part of that conversation in a way. And as you said, Tara, to show people that there's more to it than what might meet the eye. We were always drawn back here, like when we were traveling around Portugal, and I can't even put my finger on what kept us coming back. Obviously my family are here, but like, who are they? Beyond family, we felt a pull to the Algarve, and obviously the weather is beautiful, so that's one of the reasons. But for us, it was this feeling of connection with people like you and other creative people who saw what we saw in the Algarve, and we're trying to push a movement for change which is more focused on local businesses, local craft, local traditions, local food culture, and bringing that to the surface beyond the sort of bubble of Gulf and sun, sand and sea.
And there's such a variety across the country.
Exactly.
It's actually, relatively speaking, it's a small country.
Yes.
But the depth of variety across from the north to the south,
exactly,
and east to west.
Even in the Algarve, I feel like the Algarve is 3 different regions. You have the east where Casa Fuzetta is, and you have the Rio Formosa that sort of links everything together, beautiful national park and marine system. And then in the middle is the more central Algarve, where a lot of the resorts have traditionally been focused. But then behind the resorts, you have the hills, where you've got these traditional tabernas and these amazing hillsides where you can just get lost in forest bathing and everything. And then towards the west is much more raw and wild and rugged, and we almost go there just to like when we need some perspective, just to watch the sunset or walk along the beaches that are almost like plucked straight out of Cape Town or somewhere. It's insane. And I think a lot of that doesn't always get shown in promotion of the Algarve, when traditionally it's been lucrified on golfing and things like that. But yeah, there's so much to the specific region as well. And as you say, like, there's such contrast between the Algarve and up north in the mountain regions and everything that's up there, where you've got tiny little villages with little women pulling cows along the street and tucking them into bed underneath their houses to keep them warm. So amazing. It's crazy. And there are some amazing chefs that are bringing that to the forefront, because I think a lot of people travel for food, and chefs realize that, of course. And there's an amazing chef called João Rodriguez who has a project called Progetto Materia. I'm probably pronouncing that horrendously wrong. Materia. He essentially created that project to place on the map all of these amazing producers, winemakers, farmers, fishermen, fishing cooperatives and things around Portugal. And the map is accessible for anybody. So you can almost use it as like a map of Portugal. And we used it a lot when we were traveling, just to alternative experiences, and go and visit citrus farms in the middle of nowhere, and people doing interesting things. I'll definitely
be taking a note of that.
Yeah. But this year he did a tour of Portugal, and each month did like a pop-up dinner with a producer on their farm or on their oyster beds or wherever. And each dinner highlighted the different food traditions and culture in that specific part of Portugal. And I think it really told a story of what these people value and their heritage almost. And it was a really great way to experience
that's what's so exciting. I think we were chatting earlier that the last couple of days I've been meeting new chefs and listening to them, how they're sort of reintroducing biodiversity into the land, and they're working with fire, and they're smoking their own fish, and they're sourcing their provenance no further than a kilometre away, because they're getting their lambs from the farmer next door, or they're growing their own herbs. And it's just this community of people down here that just seems to be flourishing. And as ever, when it starts to flourish, it attracts people who like this kind of thing. And that's what enables a sustainable movement. Industry,
it starts to grow, doesn't it?
Exactly. And as long as it remains authentic, and that's the thing. But there are so many, it feels certainly at the moment that the degree of authenticity and real sort of
intention,
passion, that it's not about jumping on a trend. It's about actually this is who they are.
This is what driving a certain change, isn't it? That's one of the things that feels like that passion is saying we can do this differently, and leading by example, and hopefully that has a really good.
I think always in life, sometimes I know I need it. You rarely realize what you have until someone tells you how great it is, because you just think it's the norm. And it takes someone to come and say, oh, you guys you're making this out of this. That's amazing. And then you then realize, oh, maybe I have got something special. And I think that's what's happening now in Portugal, when some, in the past it's been linked with Spain, and people have thought it's all these crazy things. Exactly. But I think they're really finding their geography.
A country which again was cut off for the better part of 50 years
100%
from the world almost, and therefore no one really learnt about it. In a way it's preserved it.
Right.
And so now we get the fun to explore the history, the nature, the food, which obviously you guys are leading on a lot, but also because you've got such an exceptional eye on design, and we've just enjoyed the most fabulous lunch.
Oh my gosh.
But not just, we can rave about the food for hours and hours. We'll just tell everybody, make sure you get your booking in at Austa.
Thank you, guys.
Really
And just off the charts good. I like my food.
Good. Me too, obviously.
but also the attention to detail in the design of all of the elements, in terms of interior.
I think it was more about when we were traveling generally in life, I guess we wanted to follow, leaving London, we both wanted to follow our own passions, and we have some that are shared and some individual. But for David, he's very much the foodie wino of the two of us. And for me, I love craft and design and all of that sort of thing, ceramics and discovering places through artists and stuff like that. So Austa was a way for us to pair all of our passions together and create a space that was about food, wine and design. I always say it rhymes, but food, wine and design. Because I think more and more these days when people go out to eat, they're not just looking necessarily for good food, but they're looking for an experience.
Absolutely.
And with anything,
and it's a holistic experience.
yes,
it's a multi-sense
and that's not just in restaurants, but I think in retail, in a lot of industries, it's about becoming more about what experience you're offering people when they're coming. And we wanted to create that experience through the design of the space and through the food as well. And you
worked with also certainly Portuguese designers and artisans.
Yes, we wanted to try and focus locally. And when we first started the design process, we worked with throughout the whole project, we worked with a studio called Studio Gamero based in Lisbon. And the reason we chose them was because they're very much focused on like vernacular architecture and looking at like local craft, natural materials. And so it felt natural for us to work with him. His name's João. And the initial study that we did was all based on the local area, dating back all the way to the sort of Phoenicians and what they were using. And we have a copper light installation stemmed from the fact that copper dates back thousands of years in Portugal.
Does it also have a healing property, or am I making that up?
Yes, no, I think you're right.
Ayurvedic.
Exactly. But so that's the reason we worked with copper, and there's some amazing copper craftsmen that are still working in the same way that they were 100 years ago in Lule.
They also still make the cataplanas.
They still make the cataplanas.
Oh, but I was thinking of so the cataplana is a sort of a clam shaped pot.
Yes.
And which opens up and you effectively steam
insides.
You steam insides, onions, red peppers, and fish and shellfish.
Okay.
A good glug of white wine, olive oil, and you just pop it on the fire, effectively, or the gas hob in my case.
But they're still making the pots traditionally in the traditional way in Lule.
Yes, copper,
exactly.
Coppered pots. And they're beautiful in their own right.
They really are. They're like art. Yes. You can even just hang them on the wall if you're not and have no penchant for cooking. So we worked with them, and I mentioned natural materials before, and we used clay stucco on the walls just to make reference as well to the heritage of pottery in the region. And then we also, one of the key and the funnest parts for us was working with salt. Obviously, the Algarve has a big history and heritage in salt as well, but in a different side, we managed to find a salt mine here in Lule. And through that, we were able to create pieces of furniture out of bricks of salt that we had made by the geologists down there. Each brick was hand cut and took about between 20 and 40 minutes to make. Wow. And we had 400 of them made.
And they was beautiful and created this spectacular...
I'm obsessed with them.
Bench.
Yes.
And it just has to be seen to be
believed. But I was fascinated because when looking at it, it's obviously... Each one is individual, and you were saying it changes.
Yes. So the salt down it's 200 meters below the surface, and the actual salt, the rock, dates back 230 million years when various different plateaus were combining and moving. And the main geologist who works down there was very passionate about helping us try and work out ways to use it, because usually it's mined for industrial purposes, and he was very excited to do something a bit more artistic. But there's all these different minerals that are part of the salt. So you have salt, but you also have other things like iron and different things that run through the bricks that bring out this almost marble-like quality.
It's almost like alabaster. Almost like dark alabaster. Because I was wondering whether you've ever tried to backlight the bench.
We haven't, but
what happens with a combination of heat and
exactly. I'm trying not to touch it too much because we did do lots of experimenting in the beginning to see if we could encase it in a resin or something that would stop it from changing and disintegrating perhaps. But none of that worked, and sort of Mother Nature prevailed. So we just left it raw, and it's living and breathing and changes colour every day. And sometimes it's a little damp, sometimes it's dry. So it's really the in progress experiment as to how it changes and forms over time. But I think that's quite exciting when it comes to design. I think a lot of the time we're focused on creating something that will last forever, but it's quite nice to be able to think
with the flow.
Exactly and just see what happens. No, but the Salt Ventures, I'm very proud of that.
And
Thank
on the
you.
subject of going with the flow,
yes,
what's next?
What's next? I think I said before that we really at the moment are just living day to day and trying not to plan too far ahead. We opened in the slap bang in the middle of the summer due to various circumstances. So at the moment exactly. So we're pushing through to next summer through the slow season and trying to come up with ways that are a bit more interesting to pull people in during the winter. We're doing some pop-up dinners with different chefs from around Portugal to try to open up a little gateway to various restaurants that we felt really inspired by during our time here, and chefs that we really feel are having a moment or up and coming and a bit more interesting in Portugal. We have one tomorrow evening with an amazing chef from Stramoj, the place that we talked about earlier.
So which I gathered was completely sold out.
I did say to
David, well, it does sound like maybe you should be doing not just one nut.
Well, that's the thing. I think they've been, it was an
nights.
Experiment in the beginning just to see how people took to it, but they've been really popular, and it's a way for us to experiment with different types of cooking in the kitchen and different recipes and little traditions from across the country and bringing those into the Algarve. Other than that, we are also currently building our own house and hopefully a place, a sort of second arm, maybe guest house. I'm not sure I can manage a hotel at the moment. Yeah, it's a lot of work, as you know. But yeah, we want it to be a countryside outpost for Austa and to be able to invite people to come and stay longer and perhaps host pop-up dinners up there. There's a big farm there as well that we will rehabilitate and use to grow a lot of ingredients for the kitchen and things like that.
But you're already growing a lot of produce here, aren't you?
Yes, we have our own vegetable garden here that we planted as a team and we look after daily. The land here where the restaurant was totally dead before, so we did a lot of work to rehabilitate the soil with biochar, and we've done a lot of companion planting to bring back life to the land.
Yes, you said that. Did you do a course up in Morsheep?
Yes, we were, as Londoners and city people, we had no idea what to do. I think the closest we'd come
when it comes to
yes, literally. I think the closest we'd come was having like a little herb box in the window.
I've managed to kill mine.
No.
So many times.
Oh my goodness.
So many times.
Yes.
I'd like to be good at it.
Yeah. So we went and found this amazing Dutch lady up in Montchique who has her own permaculture farm and she does courses. So we went up there for a few days and she gave us the basics. She's also actually become our cheese supplier. So she has a herd of goats up there and she makes Gouda and feta and everything up in the mountains. So yes. It was exciting to find different types of cheeses in the region, and she does it all very holistically and uses her own goats and things like that. So that was very exciting. But the garden is a work in progress and building it as we go. But it's amazing how things grow here in the Algarve and what we're able to produce if you put your mind to it.
And the whole place goes
yes. Amazing. Like it was so dry over the summer, and I think we had a week of rain, and the whole country has just changed colour overnight. Which is amazing. It's like having a second spring. But yeah, no, as you said, like for us, we're also really inspired by these amazing chefs that are going back to almost primitive methods of cooking, using fire and fishing and foraging their own ingredients.
What are you saying that your chef is so
Our
passionate?
chef is, yes, he leaves the restaurant at 1:00 in the morning and goes fishing. And then we see him again at 10 a.m. the next day and he hasn't slept.
That's commitment.
Exactly. No, he's obsessed, which is obviously amazing for us because it means we get really interesting fish and things in the restaurant. He's a forager, so we've just brought mushrooms onto the menu, some of which he forages himself. So yeah, like really he's the backbone of the reason why we're able to achieve some of a lot
And
of our
how did you find
ideas.
him?
He was, I think we spoke earlier about silent living, but back
yes.
in a couple of years ago, I made a film for one of the silent living projects that has their own farm in the Alentejo. We were making a film about the farm, and David was the head chef there at the time, helping them develop that project. And we met there on the shoot, and then 2 years later, he was working down in the Algarve, and we were obviously in the process of looking for a chef, and reached out to him, and he was up for collaborating on the project together. But he's had so much input, and he's really amazing and brings a lot of inspiration and ideas
But again,
to
it's
the
funny
table.
how the universe, you cross paths and then
Yeah,
you
exactly.
come back again.
Yeah,
and,
when we met, we hadn't even planned to open the restaurant at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But strangely enough, there he was. And then suddenly he's in the neighbourhood when you were looking for
I
a
know.
chef.
Yeah, it was really, the
I
stars
love that.
aligned, definitely.
Yeah.
I like the idea of not knowing what the future holds in a way. And I think the idea that we spoke about earlier, in that all the people down here, I think, are people who want something different in life and to find different opportunities and just see where those opportunities take them. Yeah, there's a million.
Open and curious.
Be open and curious.
That's my favorite word.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's the whole joy of meeting people down here, is that every person you meet, you never know where that person might take you, or
conversation's going to go, or who they're going to introduce you to. That's
exactly.
That's what's I think initially some people, especially if they come from a big city to down here, sometimes they're like, the competition.
Actually, there's no such thing as competition here.
No, because everybody's doing something very particular and 100%. Very different. And actually, I think one of the real joys is everybody actually recognizes and respects that.
Absolutely.
And then is very generous with their introduction.
I think it was shifting our mindset from that London, everyone keeps themselves, to all of a sudden you're in this place where you realise people do want to help and they do want to lift you up and feel excited to do the same for them.
And a lot of it's via the wonders of Instagram.
The wonders of Insta, yes.
That's like community, not competition. And,
you
know what I mean?
100%. You said it. Yeah. No,
Exciting.
that's such a nice way to put it. I agree.
Wonderful. And I think really we have taken up so much of your time. You have been
no
so
worries.
generous.
I could literally sit here and talk all afternoon.
Me too.
That's why I was like, should we just go back to the beginning?
Maybe that means we can come back and do it again.
Yeah, no, I would love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for thinking of me. It's so nice of you. Thank you.
And yes, and as I said, we don't really need to wish you success, because having eaten here twice.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you,
and Kate here for the first time.
I'm booking in a year's time in case I can't get in.
Thank you, guys. It's nice to see you.
I would love to know, Kate, what you thought of Emma and David and Austa and the experience of this afternoon.
In a word, amazing. Amazing. I didn't know what to expect. And I think as a result, I didn't have anything in my head as to, I didn't have a vision of them or what I was going to see. And it was amazing. It was an extraordinary space to walk into, coming off that busy road. And it wasn't busy, shop fronts and things. And you come into this little oasis, and it's just, it was extraordinary to me. It was a surprise, amazing surprise, I think. And then the gardens.
What did you call the gravel?
Oh, my friend Claire calls it, let's go out and do a gravel squirt. And so it's a walk around on their peak, and I just love that. I think
that's always going to stick in my mind. That was so funny.
And we did a little gravel squirt. We did. We went round, and the garden, which was extraordinary, and you could get a sense of just being in that space, and then coming from there into the restaurant. It's beautiful. The attention to detail was extraordinary. And Emma and David are just welcoming us, was their whole crew. And yeah, it was just a joy, a treat, exciting. And then to go into Judy's shop,
so Emma's mum's. Into outdoor furniture, I suppose, lifestyle, which of course, that's what down here is all about.
I think the fact that they're creating a space and experience and really thinking about that and doing it intentionally in terms of outdoors, indoors, and outdoor, indoor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, and it was a big
And she's
surprise.
a sweetheart.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Yes.
Absolutely. Great fun to talk to, very interesting, and fun to watch all the threads and hear all the threads that she's exploring and experienced. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see where they are next year.
Yes, because I definitely think that's one that we could go back and revisit, and definitely want to go and join their supper club down.
Oh, yes.
In the salt
And
mine.
lunch.
Oh
my
in the
gosh,
in
yeah.
the salt mine. The photographs of that look amazing, and I think I'll definitely
Yes.
see if I can weave a visit. I think to the salt mine
That's
at
a
some
great
point,
idea.
because I think. Okay, selfishly, because I want to go and see it. And
Yes.
now that I've heard about it, I just even more really sounds an extraordinary experience.
Yes.
And not one that I can't imagine where else in the world I might get the opportunity to do that. And it just sounds really incredible. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think as well, the food was an unexpected treat for me. It was
oh my God,
delicious
some
beautiful.
of the dishes were just
and creative, incredibly creative. And obviously the passion for the plate was extraordinary.
yeah. We will definitely just have to sign ourselves up for the next
I'm in.
experience.
Count me in.
Lovely.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for sharing and introducing, and look forward to seeing them again.
Yay.
In the show notes, we've added links to Emma's Design Escape Portugal Instagram account. Really, really worth checking out for
beautiful.
all extraordinary boutique properties that she's found that you can either rent or go and stay at around the country. And of course, the website link for Austa and Da Licença's Silent Living and João Rodriguez's Portuguese Materia map for the foodies amongst you. And you can deep dive into the food culture of Portugal. In our next episode, we pick up on the discussion about Portuguese history and share an impromptu recording made over lunch with my Anglo-Portuguese friend, Paul Azevedo.
As ever, we would love to hear what you think of this episode and the series overall. We have a dedicated email address you can use for any podcast questions. And last but not least, we would love it if you subscribe to the series and help spread the word amongst family and friends.
Até à próxima!
Até a próxima!